And we're the boys.
Yeah.
Oh, we're the boys.
Boys.
We're the boys.
We're the boys.
We're the boys.
We're
And
the
Dan
boys.
is a boy, and Mitch is a boy, and Chris is a boy, and Tim is a boy. And together we're the boys and boys.
Am I long? Am I right?
What up? We didn't tell her that Timmy's is actually 4 hours away. So
Yeah.
we're gonna have filmed all our podcasts by the time we get there.
Also,
seriously?
it's more so we're taking Sherry to Tim Hortons, so
Yeah, you're in the car.
Yeah.
Chris is taking you.
I seriously
They just
wanted to do a road trip to
France.
Michigan to go to White Castle because I've never been to the restaurant White Castle, and I've seen it referenced so many times in movies and pop culture. But it was like 308 miles. I'm literally trying to convince Luke to take me. I'm like, we could be there and back, like before morning, and if we left at like 10:30 at night.
And you can pay
Well,
for
Sherry?
everything.
In anticipation for your interview, we had decided we're going to White Castle.
Woo! For the podcast right now, we didn't even tell you.
However, it's just one that's about 10 miles away. So.
And it's actually not called White Castle.
Yeah,
it's
well,
called
Burger
Tim
King.
Hortons?
Yeah.
It's called Kingpin Timmy.
So it's really not the same thing. But I appreciate the effort, gentlemen.
We tried to make it look like it, like a castle somewhat, so we made the Tim Hortons out of bricks.
Right?
And we made it square because castles are square, right?
We also built a
most of them,
dungeon,
yeah.
so that's pretty cool.
I don't feel like
Called
any
a
of you
bathroom
really
in
had a
the
hand
movie.
in this. I feel like it just happened.
But like
to
you
be
can
there.
lock it.
What, heaviness?
Well, I guess you can
Tim
usually
Hortons.
lock
Tim
the
Hortons.
bathroom.
Yeah, you can.
So yeah,
Unless it's a public bathroom.
what's the topic of conversation? Ghosts?
Nope.
I think
Adult diapers.
Oh, jeez.
One day we'll have. One day
Diapers.
we'll have. No, but what was it? You were saying something interesting, Chris, about horror movies.
Oh,
I-
I was talking with someone about just like we don't like horror movies and we
Yeah.
don't understand why other people enjoy watching horror movies. I mean,
Now I
like,
will
what's
say.
your guys'?
I disagree.
I will say one thing that I understand about horror movies, having seen a couple very much against my will, but there is a certain adrenaline rush that you get from watching it because you get all like creeped out and tingly, and if you really like that feeling of, you know, your heart pumping and adrenaline, like there's a certain appeal to that. But like, I can appreciate that. If my mind could be completely white blank after it, I would probably watch them more regularly.
Because
But
you'd
it-
be able
So
to
you
rewatch
basically-
them because your mind would be
But
white.
I can't handle the years and years of trauma because I haven't really experienced a lot of horror movies. So the ones that I have seen have left such a dramatic impact on my mind that I will think about them forever. So
So
anytime
basically-
I'm by
yeah.
myself
Yeah.
or, you know, even like, you know, in the shower or sleeping.
Oh, The
or,
Shining messed me up.
Oh, like
Oh,
I can't.
yeah.
I get super creeped out,
Especially
especially
alone.
by
Oh,
myself.
Yeah. So like,
Totally.
why
And
why
like,
worsen it?
Yeah.
yeah, but
right?
like, but the thing is, like,
Your imagination
why,
is
like,
better of you.
you having lived that, would you not think that in order for someone to just watch it and not be affected by it is almost like a numbness that's like almost sociopathic? Because
Right?
like
I
you
feel
have
that
to
too.
watch and enjoy like literally something that's totally
Alright.
not okay happened.
Then let me
Yeah.
then let me ask you this: does it then make me more of a sociopath that I watch horror movies and laugh?
Well, that depends. If you're laughing because of the stupidity of like, oh my goodness, like something just happened that was dumb, or like if you're laughing like
I'm laughing-
if you're laughing like that guy just got murdered and it's hilarious.
Well, I'm
that's
laughing.
kind of creepy.
Are you laughing at like production value of like, you know,
Yeah.
Not even
grade
that.
B
Like I'm
horror
laughing at
movies?
like the idea. Not even that. I watched Annabelle with different people who were like, we should watch Annabelle because apparently it's good, and they were watching and they're freaking out, and I was laughing the entire time because I was like, this isn't scary at all. And I think like when I was super young, I was scared of like movies that I shouldn't have been scared of. Like I was scared of not only like the old Chronicles of Narnia, and I wasn't scared for the right reasons. I was scared of the beavers. I was scared of the people in tall costumes because I didn't understand what that was.
Right.
But then also I was scared of like one episode of The Adventures of Odyssey, so I don't know what that was about.
Oh my goodness.
But now
I can understand.
But now,
Sometimes they have
now
to.
for the most part, I watch horror movies, and I'm not scared at all because I recognize how they're trying to scare you and what they're leading up to, and the fact
Right.
that they're essentially just trying to jump out at you, not because it's actually scary in any way. The
Well-
real good scary movies are the ones that aren't scary based off of like trying to jump at you or trying to like go boo or this is scary. It's the ones that like slowly set up uneasiness that builds and
Right.
builds.
Yeah,
Like
honestly,
the Silence of the Lambs.
I
is a
find
good
like I
example of
have.
that.
I don't know what it, like this is kind of what I don't know if it's what I was saying but like for me when I'm watching a movie and if it's like a horror movie like Jurassic Park where they're like eating people and stuff and it's kind of scary, then I find that like it's building up and then all of a sudden like I completely forget to be afraid and then I'm just watching it and I'm like now okay the dinosaur's going to come out and eat the person.
Right.
And either it happens or it doesn't because it's actually a joke one. Like,
Right.
oh, nothing actually happened. And then you're like, oh, okay, that's okay. And then by the end of it, I'm just like, well, like, it really didn't even scare me. And it just kind of grossed me out because it was like murders.
Right.
Like, it was just,
But
it
what's
was
so
literally
bad about
just
that,
murder.
Tim?
That's so
Like, it's literally, you're just watching people getting eaten or like dying in like gruesome ways.
Oh, that looks great.
It looks beautiful. You guys just missed the most awesome, like,
It was a bloody body, and it was
Yeah.
car
Like
coming
hanging from
over,
a tree.
the ridge, like fog, lights changing, stuff
And
happening.
headlights slowly coming up as we were coming up a hill.
See,
Okay, so
I can
here's-
agree as far as like a bloody horror type thing. Like,
Yeah, what about Jurassic Park? That's
Like-
what I was gonna.
no, it's fine. But like the Saw sequels, where it gets like really like
Oh, yeah,
gory.
yeah, no,
Like I can
they're
understand not liking gore, but there's a beautiful finesse to good horror movies. No. You're thinking of it
Okay.
in the way of going, oh, they're jumping at you and scaring you. But
No,
good
that's not
horror
what I was
movies have a slow build of tension. Okay,
Uneasiness.
like The Shining. The reason The Shining is scary and brilliant is because they have terrifying music playing when nothing scary is happening, which means that because usually horror movies give away that something scary is about to happen by having scary music starts. But in The Shining, they have scary
Yeah, like
music
the
going
Jaws.
whenever he's like rolling around the hallways, and then nothing happens. So you're constantly in a state of unease because you're like, wait, nothing happened. So when's something gonna happen?
Yeah.
And then when
You're so
something
used-
suddenly happens,
yeah.
you're like, oh my goodness, this is terrifying.
Because you're so used to trusting the system that when the system is just basically lying to you the entire time, that it's kind of like, well,
Exactly, that's what I mean. Like, I understand the idea of being like, oh, I don't like the gore of like, oh, dead bodies and whatever. But like, there's a real finesse to really good horror movies.
Well, yeah, if you can manage to
I can
somehow
agree with
make,
that.
yeah, but fear. I don't know how you describe fear though.
See, but you,
Strikes the fear in you.
I think you're like looking at the word fear and going, well, fear sounds bad, but it's not.
Well, I'm not trying to prove that they're bad. Is that what we're talking about?
No, but
We were just discussing them in
That's not-
general.
but you're wrong.
But because I didn't say anything.
But I think that what it is tension, and
Tension, yes.
all movies.
Yeah.
And what makes dramas and really all movies good is building tension. And horror movies just take that to the next level.
Yeah, but I think
Fine, well, we'll go
horror
to the drive-thru.
movies should.
Fine.
I think like a really good one would you'd leave it being like that was absolutely terrifying and nothing happened. Like because horror movies and then like stuff happens, it's like okay, you're watching, you know, bad stuff happen. That of course that's scary. Like if you watch someone falling off a cliff, you're like, oh crap. Or if you're watching like.
Hey guys, what do
So
you want for that?
what would
Good
make a good horror movie for you is if nothing happens.
No, I'm talking about if you watch a horror movie
Right.
and the entire time nothing happens, but the whole time you're terrified as if something's going to happen. The tension like brings you to points where something's gonna happen, but nothing happens. It's totally normal, and it's almost like just complete paranoia for absolutely no reason. Then that takes intelligence because you can't let the music play you and play the people without even knowing. Like it's got to be so subtle, so like, and not just the music, but like the scenes and like they can lead it up to stuff, but the thing is, if they make it too obvious, like a lot of
You'll
horror
know it's
monies, I
coming.
find, you'll know
Yeah.
it's coming, and then you'll be like, oh yeah, well I know nothing's gonna happen, so then it'll kind of like calm you down. But like the crazy thing is like the fact that nothing's gonna happen, but you're terrified.
Mitch, what did you think of the Blair Witch Project?
What was that?
I don't think I watched all of it. I know what it's about. I know everything that happens, but I never actually watched it.
Because, I mean, I never watched it either, but, like, that's what people had told me was kind of the idea of it, was this building on fear, even though nothing really happens. It's the anticipation
But yeah,
of something
but that's
happening.
the thing. It's true, and I agree with you as far as, like, it's the anticipation, and especially for what you're saying about tricking people into not knowing what's happening or if something's going to happen, and that's what I kind of said about him, or about The Shining, and how, like, that works really well. But I disagree about saying that nothing happens in the entire movie, because, like, I actually agree it's a good idea, and it is smart, and I actually had an idea for a horror film that would do that. The problem is, that is technically a bad movie. Because the whole point of movies is to have suspense that leads up and to give the audience a payoff. If you don't give a payoff, you're going to have an entire audience that hates you, hates your movie, and your movie's going to be the worst, and everyone's going to hate it. And you're going to say it's brilliant.
No. So then, what do you think about the Grail?
That's comedy. It's different.
So what? It's a movie.
Yeah, but that's why it's a bad movie. Okay.
It is not a bad movie.
I know.
You know what? Get out of the car.
Get out. You're walking.
They're talking about the
Monty
Monty
Python,
Python, the Holy Grail.
And the thing about that ending is the whole point of that ending is to go, oh, you want the payoff, but you don't get the payoff.
Yeah.
And that's the point. Chris, being an audience person, is upset about it.
Yes.
it was
A lot of
awesome.
people were upset
And
about
that's the thing. We look at it and we
Yes.
understand that that's the point of the joke. The point of the joke is that it's not as good as it could have been. And that's the whole point. That's the entire point of the movie. Everything happens, but none of it is as good as you're wanting it to be. None of it's as expected. And that's great for a comedy.
Right.
And I would argue that that's also would be good for a horror movie. But to argue that that's how horror should be, no. like
There's nothing horror about it. Nothing's scary
Right.
about it.
besides, it'd be terrible to rewatch.
No,
Because,
I'm
like,
just
horror
saying it
already
takes
would be
art.
hard to rewatch because you know it's going to happen. But if you know that literally nothing's going to happen the entire time,
Right.
and then nothing is going to be a problem...
Okay, but what if someone can manipulate you through the movie?
No, I understand. I understand what you're saying. And you're right, that is clever and that is good for one movie.
Right.
If you're talking about the horror genre and that's how it should be,
Right.
not at all. Because if you don't have a payoff, you're making a bad movie.
So
And that's what Monty Python and the Holy Grail did. It's amazing for it, but they were purposefully making a bad movie for humor.
Right.
But, well, I was going to say something else, but I don't know.
We're now pulling up to the drive-through window.
Man, we've
We're
been
at,
waiting forever.
Tim Hortons.
Yes, Tim Hortons.
Hi
Yeah.
there, 1111. Our debit machine's working now.
Oh. Yeah,
Wanna
no.
use debit?
Yeah.
You okay, debit?
Let's go pull around again.
Alright, we're going to Timmy's. Cancel our order. I'm joking.
But then we'd go there and theirs wouldn't be working.
Yeah, it's true, and then we'll have to go back.
Alright, so if you're very confused right now, the power
Have a
went out
good
a while
night.
ago, and so because the power went out, none of the machines are working, but we didn't think about the fact when we came up here. And so all of them, like, we were planning to use, like, the debit machine, but then it wasn't possible. But then right when we got up to the window and we were prepared to use cash, they were like, oh yeah, so it's working. So now you're caught
So
up.
we could have just waited at Tim Hortons for a bit. But...
Yeah, but it's not like we could know that. So,
Alright, so let's quickly pass out the coffees here. Who's who? Your small hot chocolate, Mitch.
I
That's my small
like
hot chocolate.
to shine.
And,
I had a decaf.
what's this?
I had, give Mitchell the extra large coffee. Not joking.
did somebody order an extra large?
No, that
Or is
was
it
you.
just a large? These must be medium then.
Yeah.
Can we turn on the light here?
I wanna shine.
I'm sorry if that was bright.
Oh, what's that song?
Shift,
I
shift,
Guys,
thought
close your eyes.
I
Put on
thought
sunglasses.
that-
Quick.
I wasn't saying sorry for you guys.
No, I was talking
This
about
is
the
the
podcast.
decaf double double.
The people listening.
Okay, I didn't
And
take
you're
one though.
double double.
Thank you.
Alright,
Oh, Nana's so nice.
Thank you,
Hey,
Nana.
I didn't get my freaking
Cheeseburger.
snack wrap.
We
I
drove
got a
away.
cheese snack wrap.
It is time to go
We
back through the
drove
drive-thru.
away without the snack
no,
wrap.
you didn't.
I did that on purpose,
drove
totally
away.
with knowing
McDonald's
that.
not cool.
Yeah.
Let's go to Timmy's.
I
and
never
ask for the
liked-
snack wrap.
You mean Timmy's. You mean Timmy's is not cool.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Because we were
Timmy's.
definitely
Why did they
at
not
Timmy's.
we
give
were
it to
at
us?
Timmy's, yes, not.
That's true, because the podcast
Anywhere
stopped while we were
else.
at Timmy's and started while we were at McDonald's.
We
What happened?
didn't cut out an entire part of the podcast.
I don't think we ever said that.
No,
directly.
guys, we didn't do that.
Definitely
because
not.
we wouldn't do that to
Tim
you.
Hortons.
So,
Yeah.
let me tell you a story. Here it is, and it's an actual story. I wasn't just saying that to be random.
Mitchell was born a pauper.
Once upon a time, there was a young Mitchell Biller, okay? And he had to watch a movie for school. The rest of the students had watched it at school, but I had been sick, so I had to watch it at home. This happened to be a horror movie. That's how it ties into the conversation at all.
Okay.
So, that movie happened to be The Shining, and I'd never seen it before. And I was watching it at midnight with my light off by myself.
Okay,
That's-
yeah.
okay,
The best time
that's
to watch it. So, but here's the thing, okay? So watching it, I realized how brilliant it was by how it did its music and feeling intense, but then not having, like,
I don't think
you
we should-
understand, like, not having any, not, what's the word for it? Not giving anything with it.
Hey, we just went through
What's
and
that?
forgot our wrap. We drove away with just the coffees.
Okay, I picked up the junior bacon rice, which is a sandwich. If
Just,
you go ahead to the
Okay.
the first window, I can meet you there.
okay, thank you.
Meet us at the first window.
And we demand all of your food because of this mistake.
Yes.
It was
You
not
will
strawberry
pay us
water.
that.
It better be.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good one.
You too.
All right.
That was so nice.
For to give me something that I paid for.
We didn't even have to pay. We just drove right up. Got it.
I wish
We
I
didn't
could
even
do
have to
that all
pay
the
again.
time.
And then we just tell everyone, hey, what are you guys all waiting for?
Yeah. Imagine what they're thinking. They just watch us pull up behind
Hey,
a
why
kid
did they get through so fast?
All right. So to continue my story.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. sorry.
Shining midnight.
So
by
while watching
yourself.
The Shining, like I was realizing how brilliant it was, but the way I was realizing how brilliant it was by working on me, obviously. And so I'm sitting there, and it's like doing these like this intense music, and I'm like, oh no, what's happening? What's happening? And this was at a time in high school when I was singing the song Sunshine, Lollipops and Rainbows. Everything that's wonderful is what I feel.
I actually
when
remember
we're
you singing that all the time.
together. I used to sing that all the time.
I know, I remember.
And there
that.
was,
That's
and
right.
everyone would join in with me because I am obviously the coolest person there is. But what happened is I was sitting there watching this movie, and I would just sing there like sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows, and it was like to comfort me. It was a way of going like I'm not scared. Sunshine.
That was like your safe space.
Yeah. Rainbows, everything. And therefore I can say that the movie was not scary because I wasn't scared at all.
Because
Okay,
you
so
sing your-
question is, one for every member of this panel, this distinguished panel. What is a movie,
Oh, we're not
scary or
recording.
otherwise, that left a really strong, dramatic impact on you? Like, let's go scary because we're talking horrors. So, like, is there anything like either from your childhood or recent memory that like really impacted you?
I have it.
Go for it,
I
Mitch.
got it too.
Why did you buy it?
This guy, who I worked with, loaned me a movie
Yes.
to watch.
Okay.
And he had been loaning me a bunch of movies to watch, like Mad Max, and
Nice.
Fury Road, and that type of thing. Because I'd never seen them, and he's like, you can't go into film if you haven't seen these.
Yeah.
I disagree, but you know.
Okay.
So, the one film he loaned me was Hostel.
Mm.
Yeah?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that messed me up.
I've heard about that.
Because, like, you go in with this group of people, and by the time you get out, they're either dead, being tortured, and the one guy gets out, but, like, barely, and he walks by his friend who's essentially being, like, tortured terribly, and, like, in this thing, and he just gets out and, like, runs for it. And I was like, it messed me up.
Yeah. I've heard that, and like Wolf Creek is another one that's like really, really like sick and depraved and terrifying.
I really enjoyed both of those movies. Not joking. I haven't.
You hypocrite!
Yeah.
Okay, well I can go next if you don't mind.
Okay.
So, I actually have two, and they're both super lame.
She
And I-
watched our vlogs.
What's that?
She watched our vlogs.
I watched your vlog. Yeah, they're both super lame.
That was the biggest impact.
I was so traumatized. They were all such a bunch of wieners.
And it was super. You could tell from her saying it's super lame.
Yeah, you all just immediately assumed I was talking about your vlogs. But yeah, so okay, so when I was a kid, my parents very much sheltered what we watched.
Oh yeah, me
And
too. I
The
sheltered.
Wizard of Oz,
Oh my goodness.
and that freaking green witch and those flying monkeys.
Oh my goodness, that's so
Like,
creepy.
and like her long fingernails on the ball when it would turn green, and she'd be like,
Oh my goodness,
then-
you got that laugh down pat.
when the monkeys would come flying and like started attacking the scarecrow.
Oh.
I, like, to this day, that frightens me. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, that scares the bejesus out of me. The other thing was this movie called When a Stranger Calls. And not the remake, but, like, the one from the 80s. And I had been babysitting. And the whole premise of this movie, which I had no idea what it was about a babysitter being, like, in this house with these kids. And she picks up the phone, and this creepy guy goes, and it's like a close-up. It's like, I mean, if I watched it now, I'd probably think it was laughable. But again, it's kind of like the situation with Mitch is like, you're home by yourself at midnight, you know, like, when you're in that type of environment, like, it's even creepier.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But, like, I was babysitting, and the kids had been upstairs in bed, and I was flipping channels, and I saw this movie. I'm like, oh, this looks interesting. And I was like 12 at the time. So, there's this close-up of this. The phone rings, and this guy's like, breathing really heavily. And she's like, who is this? And then there's a close-up of this guy's, like, the bottom half of his face. And he's talking to the receiver, and he goes, have you checked the children? And I was like,
Oh my goodness, that is
What?
That is the worst possible thing to
I was
happen.
gonna
like,
think who's
that
outside,
is
but
insane.
I would cry.
Right?
I would
And then
cry.
I was just like, I literally almost peed. I'm not kidding. I was so scared.
Oh
and
my
then
goodness, I would
she
be
hangs
like,
up.
they're dead, they're dead.
She hangs up, and then I think she goes running up and checks them. They're fine. And the phone rings again.
oh my
And then
goodness, just stop.
he
I
goes-
am still, man.
He
That
goes,
is scary.
he keeps calling her, and then she's like, where are you calling from? He goes, I'm inside your house. I called my mom. I'm like, you have to come over.
Honestly, that's scaring me just hearing about
Like,
it, please.
I was so freaking
I'm
traumatized.
horrified.
Like,
I'm
even
terrified.
I can't believe you left it
I'm
on.
never gonna
Oh,
baptize.
man.
I'm never gonna
gonna
babysit
get
anyone again.
I was so scared. I was so flippin' scared. And fortunately, Mom only lived like 2 blocks away and could come over. But I was like curled up in the fetal position on the couch rocking. That's how frightened I was. Because even to
you
the
were
point-
literally doing
I
what
was
was happening
in that
in the
situation.
movie. Oh, man.
And then oh my gosh. And then it's even to a point where even as a grown adult in my 30s, my friends sometimes just to mess with me, when they call me, they'll go, have you checked the children? And it still gives me goosebumps. Like,
Of course.
I can't
You just
even,
start screaming.
even if I'm just like, you know, out at the pharmacy or something, I'll just be like, don't even do that. Like, I literally, the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Yeah, I'm not good in those situations. So there you go. That's my childhood trauma. So, flying
nice.
monkeys and
Poor
When a
Anna.
Stranger Calls. Yeah.
So just reminder while you're babysitting
Equally
kids, don't
scary
watch horror
movies.
movies.
Yeah.
Very equally scary movies.
I thought it was gonna be a movie of the kids attacking the babysitter.
No.
So
But-
Tim, as a person who doesn't like horror, your scariest movie is probably like what,
Jaws.
Alice in Wonderland?
Jaws? Jaws, really?
Yeah.
I
it
thought
was-
Jaws was depressing.
So not a
I was
horror movie.
expecting like a horror, and like there
I've never
was
seen Jaws.
only
Yeah.
like one scene
Chris,
that I remember.
There's
that was
like
scary.
thousands of different Jaws, though. The
Like
one
the
that
original
I
Steven
watched.
Spielberg from
Yeah, there's a bunch of
1975.
Yeah, no, like I watched Jaws like as a guys group, and like that like up at the cottage,
You know what I
Chris,
saw?
and
Yeah,
it honestly
exactly.
wasn't scary at all.
The
It's-
only scary thing was when the tooth fell out of the bottom, right?
Yeah, no, okay,
That I can
this
remember.
Jaws, I was told that it was Jaws, but maybe it wasn't, but maybe, like, now I see, like, millions of different Jaws movies that were, like, came out a long time ago. Maybe this was a runoff of Jaws or something.
And it's
But
scarier than Jaws.
Anyways, they said it's about this shark attacking people, and so,
Maybe it's Shark Night.
what,
Which was terrible.
it started off with, like, the creepiest thing, like, it was just, like, I think, this person...
Was it a shark attack?
No, I know. It was the way they filmed it, though, that petrified me to the point where I
You mean
can't
the music?
swim in lakes anymore. No, it wasn't the music. It was literally
Maybe that's
what
why I'm
happened.
always scared of
So
a
it
shark.
was like they were
Inside the
fishing.
river.
They were fishing off of a boat, basically like 2 meters from a dock,
Right.
and so like it's a safe place, right?
Of course. Yeah.
It's
not like
the
they're
safest
open
of
waters
places,
and- yeah.
and that's where they get you. Is like you're not expecting it, and then all of a sudden, you know, like the rod starts going pull, and the guy's going like, whoa, whoa! All of a sudden, poof, he just gets pulled in.
Oh.
And so I'm like, okay, well, this is normal. It must have been a big fish, right? And he brought, and like, whatever. So he comes back up to the surface, and he's like, oh, whoa, that was weird. I
Yeah.
never felt something so strong. And then all of a sudden, you know, he goes under again. But you think, okay, it looked like he just went under for breath. And then he comes up, and he's like, and he's trying to grab onto the boat. And then like you see him being dragged back under a couple times, and I'm like,
Literally,
this
it was
little kid is watching him do this, and he's like, what are you doing? What's wrong? And he's like, just grab onto the boat. And like oh my goodness. And then he finally, like, you see blood starting to come up the last few times he comes back up to the surface screaming, and then he gets drugged under and blood just goes everywhere in the water.
Okay, that's terrifying.
And I was like
that's awful.
10. I was like so young, and that was
You were old enough.
That's not cool.
that was like, and these people that like they were down the street from Grandpa's cottage, and I hung out with them once or twice, and so I went over to go watch the movie.
house.
Oh, stop it.
I did shut
I like
off.
how Chris and Tim took it seriously.
No, I said,
I
oh,
just-
stop it.
I shut off the lights though. I
Like
don't know why
we've
it's
pulled
on.
into the driveway and our sunroom lights are on and the whole farm is dark around it. And what got us started on this topic is
Oh
when
my
we were
goodness.
driving out. I had said, what would you guys do if you looked into this sunroom and there was like an old lady in like 1900s garb standing looking at you?
And we come back
Spoil
and the
alert,
only light-
if you don't like horrors, don't listen to the past 30 minutes.
Yeah, maybe we should have started off.
Let's
with
tell
that.
you that now.
Okay, guys.
We've done that
trigger
3
warning.
times over the
We'll put a
podcast
trigger
now.
warning at the beginning of the episode.
Kids are petrified while listening to our podcast.
because our target demographic is 3-year-olds, right? that's
Yeah.
the ones we're going for.
Exactly, they're the only ones that get given the
Man,
bad
honestly,
name.
they're the
but
only ones who get our humor.
because you said that here, it reminded me of Tremors.
Why are we
And that
singing?
marked me definitely. Now there was
Is that-
there was
is that
two
your
different.
answer
There's
to
two
that?
different. There's
Okay.
Tremors, and then there was some like I don't think it was English. I don't think there was any words, but it was when there's one of our students from like China or something, and he was over, and he likes horror films,
Right.
and he was watching some horror film about cats. Now there's that.
You-
There's
you
that
were
one
scared?
and there's this one,
Because of
so I'll
cats.
kind of share from both. But I guess the earliest one of how young I was Tremors, and we actually at this farm, which our cousins used to own, we watched Tremors, a show about like a 11-foot worm that can eat people,
Oh,
and
was
it
so
goes through
pretty.
the
It's
ground.
nice.
And
Yeah, it was
so for the
included in
first
the
series,
show.
Oh, check it out.
it's a good show because it's just like a show, and then there's the parts that are scary.
Right.
So
Yeah.
like there's tremors or worm sighting, whatever. So they bring people on a truck, and then they have this like ditch with a guy spraying like what's it called, like
Tremor juice.
no, a fire extinguisher in there,
okay.
and running along,
Right.
trying to make it look like there's one coming, because that's what they do when they're in the ground and moving. They do like just like a fire extinguisher. So
Okay,
they make
that's
it
terrifying.
look like there's one coming. So then like, everyone get onto the rock, trying because
they can't go through
because
rock,
they
they
make
go
them
through
pay,
dirt.
like they're making it in a money show thing. Really.
Oh, okay.
So
gotcha.
get onto the thing, and then they're like, it's coming, and then they're like, hey,
Don't be
there's
scared. There's someone in there.
hey, there's another one on the other side.
And they're like, what?
They're like, what? Oh my goodness.
And it's the real one?
Joe, get him,
Like,
run!
because
There's
Joe's
another
still out in
one!
the field trying to make it look like there's a tremor,
my
and the
goodness.
tremor's coming for him.
The tremor's
Oh
coming
my-
for him.
Okay, that's
Oh,
terrifying.
man.
That is
The
so
poor guy,
so
and they're trying
good.
to get contact with him, and if they
Oh.
leave the rock, then they're in danger again.
So they're like trying to use the radio and whatever, like, oh my goodness, awesome.
Was that just a retelling of The Boy Who Cried Wolf?
So anyways, there's tons of scenes, and it gets horrible. Like,
Yeah.
it gets so bad to, like, their friends coming and looking for them, and
I will not be watching this, by the way.
their friend comes looking for them in his truck.
for a film.
And I think this is like season 2 or something. And he's looking for his friends,
Because they're making fun of what it is.
and he never
it's like
makes
a
it
TV
to them.
show of them
And so
filming
they're
a
like,
TV
oh no,
show
we
when
need
it's
to go out
actually
and find him, He should have been here like a day ago. So they go around, they're looking,
It's like-
they find his past, they follow it, and they
It's,
see
I
the
like it
truck.
because
They come
they're
up to the
filming
truck, and
something.
all there is an arm and half an arm on the back
Oh
of
my
ends up- the
Lanta!
back actually
Oh
happens.
my!
it. It came and ate
That's
them up.
horrible.
So like it was scary,
Oh.
and every season they would gain a special thing like heat vision, flying. So then they're like hiding inside the
Oh,
space,
God.
and they're trying to break.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, so that was Tremors, and we were camping at the end of the field, right? So we would be watching with our cousin inside the house, and we would have to walk through a pathway through the field to the camp
After
spot.
having watched Tremors.
So Tim decided,
Oh.
Tim's chatting with him or something, and I'm like, I gotta go or something. I remember, I think one time I had to go alone, so I had to walk through this field, dark, and I was like 10 years old, to the camping spot. I was like walking. I was like, it's okay. It's a
It's not
movie.
real.
It's not real. There's nothing coming. There's no spirits. It's fine. And then my heart's pounding
Of course.
more and more, and I'm like, and
it
I just
really-
start sprinting
Yes.
through this field, looking both ways. I'm like, it's mine.
But see, that's part of like people that I know that like horror movies. They put themselves intentionally in those situations where because they like that feeling of adrenaline. They like that feeling of fear.
Oh man!
And so they'll
thank you.
they'll
like an
watch
amusement
them
park
like
ride.
late at night and
No,
in creepy
literally,
Yeah, that
situations.
scars you for life.
It's kind of like why
No, if you're a baby,
telling
like-
scary stories around a campfire,
So
you
you're
know,
a
and
baby?
it
Yeah.
adds to that spooky feeling. Oh,
But
gosh,
anyways,
that's
so
terrifying.
glad
That is
glad
scary.
that worked. And
Yeah.
the other one is he was watching on the. Where are you going?
Well,
No, it's-
why
Don't
aren't
open the
we,
door. There's bugs, man.
then why aren't we going inside?
Why are we going
There's an
inside?
old lady in there.
You guys, we're all talking about horror
Yeah, it's
stories.
Grandma Sharon.
Why don't we stop talking about horror stories since everybody's now scared?
I'm not at all scared.
Yeah, but we already talked about it, so let's keep going. So my other one.
Could we
was-
at least drive to the building?
Can we like?
Why? We have a nice. We have a
drive
nice
out
Nice
moon.
Yeah.
view of the full moon.
We have the barn
like,
and the moon.
crazy
Is
and
your,
barn.
is your
Dark
plan to
and
not go
depressing.
inside?
Hey guys, who turned the light on in there?
Okay, seriously, I almost swallowed my throat. I literally thought somebody turned the light on in the barn, and I felt my heart just like. Thanks for that. Thanks. That's super. Oh, I will very quickly say, also Paranormal Activity.
I couldn't even watch.
You
the
know why?
commercial.
Because I believe that stuff. So I don't like filling my head with that
That's why-
Yeah,
because
it's so spiritual and it's
I
like
can't.
it's too real.
It's so awful.
And now
can't
I
do it.
agree that we should move on.
You know what? I want to know what your second one was.
But I'm starting to get scared now. I'm just looking through this, looking at him too, and I'm imagining like a person flash on and flash off behind them, and then like I'm having
Very quickly, tell us your second scenario, and then we're going to move on to part two
of happiness.
the happy movies that
Yes.
left happy
What's the funniest
impressions
ones?
on
Yes.
us. Movies
should be a
about
whole
jelly
separate-
beans and puppy dogs and
It should be a
rainbows.
whole separate one.
Exactly. So,
Yes. Second movie.
the second one was with like our Chinese or some. We had different students come from wherever and stay with us for like 6 months, and he liked horror films. So he was watching this horror film that I walked in, and it was about like these cats or this cat, may I say, instead of apartment with the owner type of thing. So the cat comes. The
The
cat.
cat's like wielding a knife.
So the cat's not in the apartment. It's a girl. She's probably like 25, 30. And you hear like a kind of a knock. So then she's
Is it a
like,
cat?
who is that? She looks through the thing. No one's there. She opens it up and yeah, it's the cat. So it's like, oh, hey,
That's so
come
scary.
on in. So she brings the cat in. I don't know if it's her cat, if it's a neighbor's.
It ends
You know,
up being
if
Monty Python and the cat kills her. No, it's a bunny rabbit. Never mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, so
Jumps
she lets
at
the
our
cat
throat.
in, closes the door, and then when she closes the door and turns around, the cat's not there
Oh no. Oh my
because
goodness.
it
I'm
walked
so
away somewhere into the room. So
Okay.
I'm so scared of it.
this is gonna horrify you guys. So she walks in into the room, and you know it's just like
Can you
la
lock
la
the
la la
door?
la. Where's huh?
Imagine if
Is it
somebody
not-
came and like
is it not
just
cold
was
enough?
like
No, can you lock the door?
It is
on
locked.
the window right now. I would probably.
No, let's not.
Oh my god! Oh, don't.
Let's-
That's not cool. Okay.
Mitchell just knocked on the door from the inside.
Can we please leave this as its whole separate thing and just call it horror movies?
Well,
Okay.
Because I don't want to like have all the good stuff after.
Yeah, it'll
People
probably
won't even make
it'll
it to
end
it.
up being. Whole
Okay, so
Anyways,
tell me
It's
about
so
this
not that they wanna
freaky
make it
demonic
because
cat.
it's-
so she's inside of her apartment. She's inside of her apartment, and it's just like there's like no sound right now. She's just looking around. She's looking for the cat, and then she hears the. Oh my goodness, my heart's starting to pound. She hears like the door close or something.
Oh God!
Stop it,
Mitchell,
Joel!
put up the window, I'm gonna kill you!
That is not cool.
Look, nothing's
creating
going to
sound
happen during
effects.
this story, Chris.
Wait, guys, look, there's a light.
Okay,
Oh,
stop.
it was a car.
Chris, you talk. Nobody else say anything,
And
or
no
I'm going
opening
to
or
punch you
knocking
as
of
hard as
doors.
I can.
This is why I love horror movies.
Okay. Okay.
Chris,
Oh my goodness,
What
that
noise?
was so funny.
what noise?
Mitchell says, "Oh my goodness, there's a light," and Sherry sees from the right a light coming at us, and she's like, "Ah!"
It's a car
It's
passing
a
on the
car.
highway.
There's a road behind us.
But it was
It's
right
a car.
after. I know, but it was right after he opened the door when you're talking about doors opening.
Oh.
So I'm already like heightened.
Oh my
and-
Okay,
goodness.
Chris, just what's the
Okay,
sound?
anyway.
That was
What's the
hilarious.
sound that happened?
Guys, I apologize.
Shush.
for
Anyway,
What's the- what's
so
the sound?
the door closed. She hears a door shut.
Yeah, don't.
Okay.
No shutting of doors, Mitchell. Okay. She hears the door.
Yeah, like if we're talking about stuff, but let's not bring it into the reality of now.
Exactly.
like
Thank
like
you.
we're not
Okay,
trying
anyways,
to have a horror
continue.
film.
Yeah, I understand.
So
I agree.
yeah, well, we're telling Mitchell because he thinks that
He
he's
thinks
so
it's funny.
high and mighty.
I enjoy
So-
you guys' life.
So you hear a door close, and she's like, "What?" So she walks around. So the room consists of like, if you imagine a donut, and then there's like, you know, half the kitchen and a wall inside of the middle.
Made
or
of
something.
sprinkles?
Yeah, of sprinkles. Yeah.
This is a
Yeah.
donut.
So you can't see
I
like through the
sprinkles.
apartment. You have to walk around in a circle type of
Okay,
thing.
right.
So she's in the
Marshmallows,
kitchen.
too.
She walks into the kitchen. She hears the door shut. She's like, "What?" So she walks around the
Honey.
middle thing, and she sees the closet door shut. She's like, "What?" And so she walks up, and she opens the door, and the light's off, and she's like, "Where's that cat?" So she walks in.
Oh mom.
What? Oh mom, oh mom.
I don't know what that means.
So,
Like, we're all hanging on to your every word right
she
now.
walks in, and she's looking around. She
She
has her hand up, trying to pull that little lever, in the air to turn the light on.
Right.
So she's like in the middle of the room, in the closet,
Right.
trying to do this, and there's light kind of.
There's
Mitchell just took a picture.
With flash
So there's a
things
bit
for
of
that.
light from the door being open, but it's not much. So she's trying to reach up and grab it, and the door shuts behind her.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my
gracious.
gosh.
She's
Oh my gosh.
Pitch black inside of this
Inside
room,
this closet.
and then you have this slow music, dun, 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 just picking up slowly, and she's like trying to grab it, and she turns it on, and in
she
front
starts
of
making out with her
her is a
husband.
little girl
Oh my goodness. No.
staring up at her,
Is it
and
her
then the
daughter?
light flicks off. Oh my goodness!
I don't like little kids in horror movies. Though
I hate that.
that
No,
is so
I don't like
scary.
little
long,
kids in general.
long hair.
It's so innocent.
Long hair, like red eyes. Not
What?
not red eyes, but like the red around her eyes, like she hasn't slept in years.
What's the name of this movie?
I have no idea.
He's making it up on the spot.
If so, this is genius. Because this is genuinely terrifying.
So, I'm remembering
Yeah.
some of these things. I'm just making up because I just know that she was in a closet and lights were turning on and off.
Right.
And there's the cat and then the girl. So then she turns it on and sees the girl, and then the light turns off, and she's like screaming her face off and trying to get out. And the
It's just a hallucination.
video switches to outside of the closet. She's wiggling the door like trying to open the door, and the light starts flashing.
What
And
in
she's
the
screaming.
name of Jehoshaphat is this?
Jehoshaphat?
Isn't that Josie's name?
No.
The people were.
Anyways,
So that's
Anyways.
terrifying.
So that's the first scene.
It was just
And,
a
Okay, so-
hallucination.
And then there's another scene of
She was
either
on
it was
drugs.
her, she got out and she was running
I'm
away or
showing my
something.
fat to comfort
Um,
myself.
And maybe the cat's following her and running after her. And then other cats start coming. So
these
she's
cats are,
running.
like,
Other little
She's
girls.
running, and there's cats like ripping through doors in the apartment building. She's running down this thing, and like cats are everywhere, just scratching through, running in the hallways after her. She's racing down
They're all
like
little
the steps
girls
into the parking
wanting to
area.
be set free.
And inside of this parking area, there's like there's like dumpsters type of thing, but it has like it's kind of like if you imagine a old style bomb, and then the little tiny circle top that you can open and close. Well, it was open, and there's a like a drum type of thing like that. So she runs through the parking lot with like, I don't know, 50 cats running after her. So there's like
Good gravy.
and then
Sounds
this
pleasant.
one cat's turning into the girl
Oh my
and
gosh.
walking, and then turning back into the cat.
Okay, that's
So
messed
she's
up.
climbing up the ladder to the top of this like bomb circular, dumpster thing, and she's climbing up, and these cats are like grabbing onto her feet, scratching her, and she's like kicking them off, and she quickly like climbs up, and she opens the top hatch, and then she jumps in, and then she almost gets it closed, but then the paws get in the way.
Oh my
And
gosh.
she's like, no! And they like rip it open, and then they just start like piling in.
What is wrong with
And
these cats?
And she's just screaming her head off while getting eaten alive. Anyway, so that wasn't as scary as the first part, but it was
yeah,
scary
it was.
in the movie.
Sure.
It was horrifying.
Yes.
Because they obviously did it right.
And that taps into
It's
another
just- it's a
little fear of
hallucination.
mine, which is I don't want to be a cat lady because I've heard stories of like
Cats eating their
women
parents.
who have died and like they're old and they don't have family and their cats will literally eat their face.
Yeah.
Like they'll
I've heard a
start
story
like
of that.
eating off their skin. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't want to be one of those old ladies that has a dozen cats because I don't want to. Just the thought of having my corpse being eaten by cats. So like you totally tapped into like a deep rooted fear of mine.
See, but those women are like Well, rather than just being thrown into a concrete thing in the ground and being useless, at least I'll feed my cats for a while.
No.
You know, they
I
must
don't
have been
want my
so
cats
kind.
eating me.
Okay, like, I would have rather hear that story inside because it's dark out here. And so you're like,
None of
oh,
us
but
wanna get out of the
there's a
car."
beautiful moon. It's
Yeah,
such
it's
a
like a
beautiful
full
sight. That is
moon.
the most creepiest thing ever. Like the light shining on the barn in the
On
middle
the
of
barn,
nowhere.
in the middle of nowhere.
With the moon that's
Yeah.
like half red, and you're like, no, this is perfect. This sets the mood for my
guys,
story.
who's
With
ready
this-
to
with
who's
this
ready to play
old
hide and go seek?
Empty barn. Let's
Okay,
go
let's do
play in the old empty barn.
Okay.
That
With
was-
the lights off.
Yeah.
Ow! Something's grabbed my leg.
No.
Are those
I won't
weeds
be
moving?
doing
I'm
any
never
of that.
gonna work in the barn again.
And we've been gone for like half an hour. Somebody totally could have gone in the house because we didn't lock the doors.
Oh, I leave them.
If you guys couldn't hear that, that was me rolling my eyes.
Well, I'm glad you're not freaked out because I kind of am a little bit.
I'm looking for.
I'm exaggerating
freedom.
slightly for effect, but also not really.
Yeah, like I'm not really
Okay.
scared
I'm a
because
little
it's
bit
just
scared.
it's just a hallucination. She was on drugs and she probably just like was scared of cats.
She died. Horribly.
Yeah, because she fell into a thing thinking that cats were ripping it open. She didn't pay attention, fell down, and like probably hurt herself and died.
So
In
then
that
all the
giant
cats
tank.
jumped in, then jumped out and walked away peacefully.
No,
But
there was no
cats
cats.
do genuinely eat people. This is the thing. They
When
do.
they're dead.
How often do you see that happen?
I've heard of it
Mitchell
happening.
watches it happen
Yeah,
all the time.
in
with
the
those little
world,
cats eating his fingers
For
off.
Yeah.
the past how many years? I mean, like, the amount of cats and owners there are.
Can I
There's,
please
like, no
go in the
chance,
house and
you know?
enjoy this coffee,
There's
the rest
some
of it
chance.
without
Yes.
like
okay.
fear
let's.
and
Yes.
So what did we
So
talk
we're
about
going
this
to be
episode
changing
anyways?
we
the
talked
subject.
about fear and stress and
Fear and.
No,
Horror,
what
it's
did
a
we
horror.
start at the beginning when we drove off?
well,
Was it
we
just
started
straight
about
up?
horror
Really was
movies straight
talking
up
about
from horror
horror
movies.
We
movies.
literally talked about horror movies
The entire
whole
time.
episode.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think literally because it was stuck on this one subject, I think if we try to change the subject, we should just change the
No,
episode.
yeah, it's
Just go to
47
it.
minutes. It's 48
Yeah,
minutes
we'll start
now,
another
so.
podcast.
All right. Well,
Is that a cat in the window?
hope you
No.
guys are
That's-
Oh, that blanket, man. That blanket.
Seriously, guys? Seriously?
Don't
It did
propose.
kind of look like a cat, for real.
Yeah, actually, for a second there, I was
I
like,
did see
okay,
something
I'm
move.
going to murder someone.
That's great. That's super.
So, we're sitting out in front of the house.
Yeah.
Most of the lights are off. Only like one or two are on. And I asked the question, what would be more terrifying if we're sitting out here and one of the lights turned on or one of the lights turned off? Or all of the lights turned on or all of the lights turned off? Which would be more terrifying?
So my answer to that was if the lights had turned off all at the same time, because we just had a power outage a few
Yeah.
hours ago, so I could go, okay, well, I can reason that it's probably a power outage. But then when Mitch, you'd said, what if it was just one light going on? Like if the bathroom light suddenly just turned on?
I
I
probably
think that
think
would be-
Leaf got here or something.
See,
There's no cars around
I
us
would
then.
think that would be scarier than the sunroom light that's on right now going off.
but that could be just a light blowing, right? But here's why I disagree. Like, I get that all the lights turning on would seem more likely to be something scary, but at that point you can see inside of the house. If we're talking about this scary stuff and you guys are already scared, and then all of the lights suddenly go off, and then we have to enter the house into the darkness, and we're assuming that
Oh.
even if the power's gone off,
I wouldn't enter the house. I would be sitting in this car for the rest of the night until daylight.
and what if the lights turned on? Would you still be sitting in the car?
Well, if they all turned on, I
Then
would
you
think,
know
oh,
it's,
that's weird,
and
but
you
at
know
least
it's a
I can
power.
see it. Actually,
No.
no, because what if they all turn off?
Yo, that's a good start to a horror movie, okay? So the power goes off, and we're like, oh, that's crazy, and then we leave, and then when we come back, all the lights turn on, and we're like, wait, did we end up turning them off, or did we leave them on, and now the power's coming back on, right?
But why are all of them on?
Yeah,
That's the
it's like,
thing,
wait,
yeah.
were all the lights on before?
Or were they
And
all
that's why
off?
it's turned on, or were some of them off? In which case, like, it isn't the power.
No. What about it? The lights turn off. the light turns on that was on, and then you start seeing one by one lights turning on.
Oh my god!
Okay,
That's
now-
terrifying.
Okay, that's a better
Not just
question.
that, but I
Would
was
you-
wondering
would you-
that light goes off and then the kitchen light goes on.
No,
I would
no.
say, Chris, leave.
No, but the thing is, that could be someone walking in the house. So here's
Exactly.
I'm gonna go on
No,
Chris's
no.
thing.
Exactly.
What should
But
be
why
scarier?
is someone walking in the house?
No, but what should be scarier? All of the lights turning on one by one, or all of the lights turning off one by one?
I think, okay, oh my goodness, I think one by one them turning off would be more terrifying.
Because you can't see anything.
Yeah, but I'm just imagining one by one going off, okay? They go off randomly. It's not like someone walks down the hall and shuts them off. They're going off like separate rooms
Yeah.
in the house.
Oh, that's
and then
different.
and then
That's different.
one in the middle turns on with just like this normal
No,
person in the
no,
middle.
everything turns off, and then the kitchen.
No. Regardless of whether things are turning off or on, we don't see anyone.
Okay.
We don't see anyone or anything
It's
that would have
just
caused
the
it.
lights.
I think it just turns off. It'd be
No.
terrifying.
Man.
Because it's all dark.
Yeah, if all the lights were on and then randomly they turn off, and then when everyone's off, the kitchen one turns on because that's where we have to walk into.
I really wish someone was.
Oh.
I really wish that someone was at the house right
I would
now.
say thank
To
you,
just
Jesus.
mess with us.
so that
Can
I
you
could text
imagine?
them to turn the light
This
off.
would be covered by coffee right now.
Yeah, it would. How
I
great
would have
would that
to drive
be?
in it.
I don't know whether my pants would be full of coffee or pee. or both.
Probably both.
Because I need to go pee too, so it's like
Me
a
too.
Like, how funny would it have been if this entire conversation was Mitch setting us up to this moment, and while we were gone, he like texted Gord, "Go over to
Oh
the
my
house."
goodness! Hey, yeah, I
Hang
forgot
out in the
something.
house.
I forgot something in the kitchen. Can you go get it? He turns the light on because he needs to see.
That
Oh.
actually
That'd
would
be
be
brilliant.
genius. It really would. But
See, the best I could
thankfully
do is
we
like
didn't do that.
just turn the light on.
The
Right?
thing
It won't
is,
do anything.
I like outside of what we're talking about, like when I am not actually imagining
about this,
that
it doesn't matter.
happening. I actually love this house. Like, there's actually truly a feeling of peace.
Not anymore. I'm horrified. I am not walking over
All right,
there
guys. So
anymore.
this is our next film.
I think there's a good vibe
Terrified
in this
at
house.
the
I just
house.
have to not think
Yeah.
about
Yeah,
what we're
we
talking
need
about.
to change
Yeah,
the.
but like,
Yeah.
When we start the second podcast, we'll talk about more happy things.
Yay,
It'll be better.
puppies.
Don't worry, this will become a safe
Bubbles.
place very soon.
no,
Yeah.
we have some bad puppy stories that are horror stories.
Oh,
Remember?
we do?
Yeah, the kid's going up to the store and asking for the puppy. And
Oh, that's a terrible story.
comes
No,
out
it's
as a-
It wasn't
hilarious.
really.
It's
It wasn't
a
really
puppy.
scary
It's
at all.
It
hilarious.
wasn't
It's
scary,
just-
but it's sad.
It's
Come
sad,
on.
sure, but it's not a horror.
It's not.
It's only
Yeah, but
sad
I mean,
because of
imagine
what they
the
were
kids.
expecting.
They're like, oh, this cute little fluffy puppy, ah! And then
Okay.
it comes out as like a like skinned chicken, and they're like,
Oh.
what is that, Daddy?
Yeah.
Well, if they don't know,
that
then it's
was
fine.
in Korea. Or
He's like,
somewhere.
that's your pup.
But like, okay, I do have a genuinely frightening. Well, not frightening, but it was a traumatic real life experience.
Yeah.
When I lived on the farm, when we lived in Saskatchewan, I had a little cage of bunny rabbits. These were the cutest little frickin' bunnies. And I would go in the cage and I'd pet them and feed them lettuce, and they were totally my buddies.
Aw.
Killed them, didn't you?
So one night I woke up, like, I don't know if any of you have ever heard a rabbit scream, but it
Oh.
honestly is the most terrifying sound in the world. I didn't know they could actually make this sound. I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I hear this like screaming, and all of a sudden my parents, they're up, they're like, "Rah, rah, rah, rah," like I can't hear what they're saying, but I hear my mom yelling, my dad yelling, and so I get out of bed and I go out the back. I go out the back, down the back stairs,
And while
and
they're out
there was
inside.
a freaking like weasel that had gotten into the bunny cage
No.
and had ripped my bunnies to shreds.
Oh my
And there was
goodness.
one he was actually like in the process of eating while I was walking, and I'm here on my nightgown in the middle of the night, and when my mom saw me,
Weasels
she's
are
like,
terrible.
"Jack, get Sherry back in the house." And then when I realized what was happening, I start running towards the bunny cage, And my dad just like sweeps me up in his arms and starts like running me back to the house. And I've got my arms outstretched over my dad's shoulders. I'm like, my puppies! I was so
Horrifying.
upset.
Oh my
like,
goodness, yes.
because I literally saw like ears and fur and paws strewn across this freaking rabbit cage. And so my dad had ended up shooting the weasel or whatever.
Thank you.
And that really left a serious impression
yeah.
in my mind because I was so little.
Oh,
and
yeah.
actually, even just like about a year ago, when we were talking about old farm memories, and I was like, yeah, remember when the weasel got my rabbits? And my dad, his face just like fell. He was like, oh, you remember that? He's like, oh, I was hoping that you had forgotten about that. And I'm like, no, I've never forgotten about that. Like, it was really upsetting. So, yeah. Anyway,
like,
there we go. This is pleasant.
I was about to go and try it and find Steve's gun, but I didn't know if it'd make a hole through the barn roof, but there was a weasel in the roof. That's what your story made me think
By
of.
the
and
way,
was like,
I don't even know what a weasel looks like.
I really want to kill that thing.
I really want you to kill that
What
thing
does a
too.
weasel look like?
Because it's like a long...
Yeah.
How
it's like,
often do you hear someone
Chris,
say weasel?
Chris,
Like
it's a
groundhog,
weasel looks
squirrel.
like a very long squirrel. And with
Almost
like
like a
it's very
muskrat.
long and wiggly.
Yes. Ew.
It's like
They've got whiskers.
it's got a tail, and like just like a, yeah, and it's just like an extended. It's like a limo version of a squirrel.
Yeah, it's got a long body.
And they're apparently super vicious. Like
They
Reinhardt had them kill his rabbits, and and I think
they're jerks.
the Regiers had them like completely shred up their chickens to the point that they couldn't find them.
Oh yeah, they're total jerks.
They're jerks. Oh my goodness.
So that's why the insult, like you're a weasel, like when you think of what a weasel actually does, like that's calling
That's a
out
good
somebody
compliment.
pretty hard.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Anyway, yeah. So boo weasels.
Well, weasels are actually really good pets.
Sorry for
they
taking
have
everyone
pocket
down.
Weasels, and they're actually like this big, and their home is actually in your purse. And they all they do with their life is play around in your purse and your keys, and you can pull out your keys, and they're like sticking through the little hoop, and they're like, ee, and they like climb up around you.
No. Are you messing with me?
No.
Is that a
I'm
thing?
serious.
It's a
They
thing.
have pets of everything.
It's just
Pet.
super tiny pets. It's
Lions.
like literally their purpose is to be in a very
Yeah, no.
dark, concealed thing like your
I
purse,
would
and
not
you
own a pet
you go
weasel.
through and you're like, oh hey buddy, and you can pull him out whenever, or you could just let
Where
him
would
play
he
in there.
poop? Does he poop in your
Oh,
purse?
they wait and they wait fully content until like, you let them out, and they just like poop on their
Because it's a trained animal rather than wild.
yeah, it's trained.
It's the same with anything.
Yeah, I wouldn't be into that. So
It's not gonna poop in your purse.
FYI, please don't get me a purse weasel for my birthday.
I want to.
What about a fluffy one? Just a fake one, like a...
What about a
No.
little mouse? What about a
No! Mice are even worse. No, they're not worse. The weasel is the worst, but mice, no. You know what you should do though is get one of those for your mom because she hates mice.
Oh yeah.
We'll
I can put it in her. I can put
We'll
it in her
get her a
backpack.
mouse if we can get you a weasel.
I do not want a weasel.
And she doesn't want a mouse.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Nobody's getting anything.
Well, guys, sorry
Yeah.
to
Extend
be
this
talking
longer
about
than-
such evilness. And I don't know if you enjoyed this or not, but yeah.
But now we're gonna go into our haunted 150-year-old house and
Yeah,
try to
and-
get a good night's sleep.